The fleet hovered above Earth, a vast armada of the Zalzari dominion, poised for yet another effortless conquest. High Imperator Zerlan stood on the command deck, gazing at the blue-green world below. This was supposed to be a simple operation. Planets fell before them like wheat to a scythe. Earth would be no different. "Begin planetary annexation," he commanded. Dropships roared toward the surface, their hulls gleaming with the scars of past victories. The capital cities of this primitive world had been chosen for immediate subjugation. They would claim the seat of power, issue demands, and establish dominion before the sun set. The first squad landed in Washington, D.C., weapons primed, translators calibrated. They expected immediate resistance. Instead, they were met with indifference. A human woman with a security badge approached. She peered at their imposing war armor, completely unimpressed. "Do you have an appointment?" Commander Zerlan's second-in-command, Vaktal, stepped forward. "We are the Zalzari. Your world now belongs to us." The woman sighed, pulling out a clipboard. "Right. You'll need to file Form 14B for foreign land acquisition. Also, if you plan on establishing a new government, that requires a political entity registration. Processing time is around 6 to 8 months. Zerlan's expression darkened. "We do not register. We conquer." She raised an eyebrow, flipping a page. "Sure. But you still need a visa. Right now, you're technically unauthorized visitors." An aide whispered in Zerlan's ear. "High Imperator, this could be a cultural custom. Perhaps this is their ritual for surrender." He considered it. No other species had required paperwork for planetary control, but humans were an odd-looking breed. Maybe this was how they yielded. "Very well. We will comply, for now." She handed them a stack of papers. "Great. You'll also need to submit a zoning application if you plan on making structural changes. Oh, and an environmental impact report for any large-scale destruction." Zerlan turned to Vaktal. "How long will this take?" Vaktal hesitated. "It says here, approval times may vary." A bureaucratic phrase, one they did not yet understand would be their doom. 72 hours passed, and the invasion had yet to begin. The fleet remained grounded, not by enemy fire, but by an insurmountable force known as processing delays. Zerlan paced inside a drab government office, fists clenched. His officers were buried in a mountain of paperwork, each document leading to another. Their application for military annexation had been rejected due to a missing signature. Their planetary claim was on hold pending review. Their request for a meeting with Earth's leadership had been redirected through 6 departments, none of which seemed to hold actual authority. The most baffling blow came when their war machines, towering constructs of destruction, were classified as foreign commercial vehicles. They were slapped with hefty registration fees and told they required a valid license to operate in populated areas. A clerk handed Vaktal a pamphlet titled, "How to Pass Your Driving Test." Elsewhere, the troops fared no better. The immigration office deemed them temporary residents, which meant they owed taxes on any resources brought into the country. A squadron leader protested until he was handed an IRS audit notice. Then came the legal entanglements. The human courts determined that hostile planetary occupation was a complex matter of international law. Their war effort now required an official trial at The Hague. Their claim of ownership? Rejected due to a missing environmental impact report on how conquest might affect local ecosystems. Zerlan's patience frayed. This was not war. This was an endless, mind-numbing siege of paperwork and obscure regulations. He had battled civilizations with planet-cracking weapons, yet here he was, waiting in line for a stamped approval. Then came the final insult, a fine for illegal littering after their landing pods damaged a public park. The amount exceeded the cost of fueling an entire warship. Zerlan slammed his fist on the desk, his voice trembling with rage. "We are the Zalzari Dominion. We do not pay fines." The clerk barely looked up. "Failure to comply will result in additional penalties." Vaktal hesitated before speaking. "High Imperator, we may need to pay." Zerlan exhaled sharply. Conquering Earth was proving more expensive than expected. Zerlan sat in a cold, windowless room, wrists bound by primitive but legally enforced restraints. The charge? Failure to declare imported alien goods. His prized war metals had been confiscated, classified as historical artifacts of unregistered origin. A lawyer, billing by the hour, explained that his planetary claim had been stalled due to ongoing lawsuits, filed by environmental groups, tax agencies, and something called a Homeowners Association. Beyond the walls, his fleet was unraveling. Several officers had unknowingly signed documents registering them as temporary residents. That status came with jury duty obligations, a process none of them understood but were somehow required to attend. Others had been assigned social security numbers, which led to automatic wage garnishments for unpaid planetary usage fees. Even the troops who had managed to remain in their barracks were falling apart. Warships had been impounded due to unpaid parking violations. Soldiers were being forced to attend workplace compliance training. A squadron attempting to seize a government facility had been stopped, not by security forces, but by a receptionist who informed them that appointments must be scheduled at least 2 weeks in advance. The tipping point came when an officer burst into the detention center, breathless. "High Imperator! The fleet's assets are frozen. The tax penalties alone exceed our treasury reserves." Zerlan's rage burned white-hot. This wasn't warfare. This was slow, crushing, systemic suffocation. No blood had been spilled, no battles lost, yet the Empire was buckling under fines, fees, and forms. A bureaucrat arrived with a clipboard, completely unfazed by his fury. "Your appeal hearing is scheduled for 2037. In the meantime, you may request a provisional waiver, processing time, 3 to 5 years. Zerlan's mind snapped into clarity. This was no longer a battle they could win. "Order an immediate retreat," he growled. "We are leaving this cursed planet." There was no shame in withdrawing from superior force. And today, he had learned that bureaucracy was the deadliest weapon of all. The withdrawal order spread through the fleet like wildfire. Dropships scrambled to recover ground forces, but even retreat was hindered by the bureaucratic nightmare. Customs officers demanded exit permits. Environmental agencies required proof that their departure wouldn't disturb local wildlife. Several ships were blocked from taking off due to outstanding toll violations. Zerlan stormed toward his flagship, past soldiers carrying stacks of unpaid fines instead of weapons. Vaktal caught up, clutching a final document. "High Imperator, they say we need to formally cancel our invasion claim." Zerlan snatched the paper and scanned it. A waiver for voluntary planetary disengagement, requiring signatures, 3 witness approvals, and a notarized seal. His jaw tightened. "Just sign it." With that, the fleet broke orbit, limping away from Earth's gravitational pull. Soldiers slumped in their seats, hollow-eyed, as if they had aged decades and days. The Zalzari Dominion had conquered countless worlds, yet none had drained their will to fight like this one. In the control chamber, Zerlan sat in silence. Never had he felt so thoroughly defeated, without a single shot fired. Vaktal hesitated before speaking. "Should we inform High Command?" Zerlan let out a slow, bitter breath. "No. Let them believe we retreated due to unforeseen planetary conditions. If word spreads of what truly happened here, it will destroy our Empire's morale." Meanwhile, on Earth, the entire ordeal barely registered. The invasion force had come and gone, lost in the endless noise of government inefficiency. In an office buried deep within a sea of cubicles, a clerk glanced at a rejected application stamped "Zalzari Dominion, failure to comply." With a shrug, he tossed it into a bin marked "Closed cases." It was just another Tuesday.